All right, folks, we've been definitely having some very good conversations lately. One of the conversations, of course, was yesterday with Oli Damagard, who has definitely got some interesting views about politics and the world and things of that nature. And of course, the day before that, on Monday, during our regularly scheduled program, we had the interview with Rico Dawson, a musician from Goldsboro, and we had the interview with Steph Johnson, who's been talking about inclusion and things of that nature. So this is another special edition, and we're very glad to have JB the Wizard with us. JB the Wizard has said that he has learned all kinds of things about how success works and how a lot of people that are successful have a lot of the same kind of themes within their life. So I'm interested to learn some of the things that JB has learned as well as some of the things that he has been involved in. So definitely very glad to have JB in the studios with us as well. Matter of fact, I see that we've got folks already watching from around the world. We've got Fernando joining us from Los Angeles, California. So he's one of our regular folks that catches the things that we do on a regular basis. So very glad to have you. JB, had the pleasure of meeting and talking to you on the phone sometime back. And I know that one of the things you oftentimes talk about is just success and things of that nature. So for those that don't know who JB the Wizard is, share a little bit about your background and how you got involved in success coaching. Because one of the things that I was amazed at is that you have found that a lot of successful people have a lot of the same common things. I mean, we oftentimes think that maybe they had a silver spoon in their mouth or that they had this or that is the reason they are successful. But you found that they have a lot of very commonalities, and a lot of those commonalities are very much common sense kind of commonalities from what I remember in our initial phone conversation. So just share a little bit about your own life and about how you got involved in success coaching and what JB the Wizard is all about.
Sure. So, yeah, my name is JB the Wizard. I'll explain where that name came from. I'll start off right with that. I was working with a client of mine, and he is on the front cover of Runner's World magazine and Nike athlete, Grammy and Emmy Award winner. And he said, "My business is unlocking. It's everything is opening up. What are you doing?" He said, "I feel like we didn't even speak about business. We just talked about me, and it's all opening up. I feel like you're a wizard who lives up in the side of a mountain. You pop out just to talk to me. I'm going to delete your name from my phone, and I'm just calling you the Wizard." So from that day on, I also went by that name, and it's one of the clearest, most confusing ways to explain what it is that I do. There are a lot of terms I don't necessarily like because they're attached to other, industries and things like that, which could then sometimes taint or not accurately display what it is or portray what it is that I do and help people with. So one of the things that's so cool about the Wizard is there's no real attachment to it. So a lot of people end up saying, what is it that you do? So in summary, I just help celebrities and CEOs get in alignment by removing mental blocks. That's it. And my degree is pre-medical exercise physiology. But since my sophomore year in school, I started to act in film and television, theater, musical theater, voiceovers for Cartoon Network, Shakespeare, and all of that stuff. So I did all of that performing and continue to direct and produce. And with acting, a lot of people think that acting is pretending. But acting is really being honest. It's being present. It's being in this particular moment right now. And as an actor and then director, my job was to simply be present. And then when I'm directing people, my goal was simply to help other people to be present and in that moment with me. And as things went along, I started to notice that the same thing that I did in my own life is the same thing that I was doing as a director. How could I do this theoretically without a camera, without any other equipment? And that's what brought me to basically directing people right now on phone calls with my clients to simply be present and to be authentic. So one of the things that holds them back and all of us back is this aspect of alignment and then removing mental blocks. So
what are some of those biggest mental blocks that you think that people have? Because I agree that sometimes we have mental blocks. I remember I had a young lady from Australia on the show not that long ago. It might have been a few weeks ago, and she's a career coach, and she's a career coach for corporate people and everything else. And I was telling her about how I oftentimes, even myself, will talk myself out of jobs. Like, there'll be something that I think that I might be qualified for or should be going for, whether that's a directorialship job in terms of like a corporation or a cultural arts organization or something like that, or whether that's different other kinds of things. I would even use the terms, even in terms of romance. There might be certain young ladies that think that I should go try to pursue and everything. And I'm 58, so I don't know how young they would actually be, but you get the idea. But then sometimes you wind up talking yourself out of it. And I know that I had a real deep conversation with her, and she basically like saying was, so you basically, I forget her exact term, but basically her gist of what you were saying was that you fired yourself before you even got a chance to get fired or to even get the job because you talked yourself out of the job. So I was wondering, you find that with a lot of corporate people that they might have these great ideas, these great big things that they want to do, but then they talk themselves out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the people that I work with, they are CEOs or celebrities or entrepreneurs, salespeople, that sort of thing. And the foundation of it all is that we are all so afraid of so many different things. And fear is very tricky. People talk about it, false evidence appearing real, that sort of thing. Fear is pretty remarkable. I tend to say that fear is an indicator. It's oftentimes an indicator of where you should go. And so if we could learn to read fear more accurately as opposed to misinterpreting the message, it would help us to know where to go next. There are a few phrases that I have a book coming out called The 5 Principles of Alignment. And in there, I talk about something called the bravery muscle. And the bravery muscle is what you need once you see something that's clear, because information, intellectual understanding is completely useless. I do not like the phrase knowledge is power at all, because it's not. What we have to do is we have to apply what it is that we know. And if we don't apply it, then it's not useful. And that's how things are in this existence, in this world, in this physical place that we live. And so if we have those fears, when we have those fears, if we understood what to do next and we took action on that, that really helps us to know where to go and to get to the next step. So these mental blocks that people have, they come from a lot of different places. I would say money blocks are a very, very popular one. They're really, what's cool, not cool about money blocks is that people understand them instantly. Like if you say the word, if I would just put out a marketing campaign, are you dealing with money blocks? Most everybody would click, yeah, no matter how much money you have, because what you tend to think is I could be having more, or yes, I've got some issues in that particular area. So money blocks are a very big one. Sometimes there's a happiness block, maybe, not feeling like you might deserve something, but I think money blocks are a very big one. And then another big foundational belief that I teach is that you have all the answers already, like period. You literally have all of the answers already. So some people could say like, well, then what do they need me for? Well, you don't. But if you want things to happen faster, then you would, that's when people engage with me. So could you learn something? It takes people 10 years, 15, 20 years. Yes, but time is very expensive and money is very cheap. So to spend 15 or 20 years is very expensive. So if you can cut that down to a year or 6 months, that's when people engage with me. So I just help people to see the answers that they already have faster. That's it.
And it seems like more people in this day and time are actually doing more of self-discovery, kind of the mindfulness and the self-discovery because of what's going on in the world, because of coronavirus, Black Lives Matter, and a lot of other things. So I'm finding that a lot of people, I know my friend Shree, who does a COVID call every day, and then he also does the read along with the New York Times. He often talks about use this time that we're in with the pandemic to kind of like discover things that you wanted to do and that you may not have been doing. Like if you want to write that great American novel, go ahead and write it. If you wanted to go ahead and engage in some of these things, now that we've got the time or we've had the time to do it, this is now the time to actually engage in these kind of things. I was wondering what some of your thoughts are in relationship to that, because we have so much going on in the world. We've got people, like you said, that are worried about their own personal economies. They're worried about Black Lives Matter. They're worried about the coronavirus in general. But it seems like that might be opening up an opportunity for more people to do more things.
It's interesting. I love the name Tree, by the way. That is super cool. So that's an awesome name. I don't know who he is, but I love that name. Secondly, I actually have a post on my Instagram I created something called COVID Conversations. And that's exactly what I was saying, is that this time is an opportunity. You know, there are a lot of different perspectives as to what's going on and that sort of thing. But at the same time, if you could utilize this time as an opportunity to do those things that you were thinking about before. So I certainly agree with Tree. I definitely, say that the luxury to right now, which is what I mentioned on the post online, is that typically the entire world doesn't stop while you experiment. And what happened during this COVID stuff is that the world was quite paused. It was quite paused, as much as it could possibly be paused in a positive way. There's another post I put on there that it's similar to like a World War III. But during the World Wars, things ramped up. They weren't paused. And there were different kinds of fears that people were dealing with at the time. So with this particular pandemic, if you like, this is as slow, I think, as somebody could hope to get while being able to be productive at the same time.
Yeah. What are some of the things when you've talked to these people? Like I said, I know you've worked with Cuba Gooding, you've worked with some other big time corporate people and things of that nature. What are some of the things that you have found out that they have in common? Because like I said, I noticed that definitely in some of your material on the web, it talks about how you have found that some of them have some commonality, and definitely the aligning part of it is an important part of it. But what are some of the other commonalities that you found from both the successful people as well as just the common citizen?
Well, what we all have is a purpose in this world. That's why we're here. So the idea of what people view as success, one of the things I love about what people call celebrity is all a celebrity is, it's a human being who has not stopped. It's a human being who continues to push forward for their goal. It's what I call a big soul. Like, that's it. It's not because they're handsome or they're pretty or they've got money. Those are results of a type of behavior. And so sometimes you'll come along, you'll meet people. I interact with houseless people who have the same thing, which you'll find a common story with a lot of successful people. They were houseless before as well. So what's going on? The thing is simply that you're meeting people where they are on different parts of their journey. Okay, so what all successful people, real successful people, which means people who are living their purpose. That is the best way to define success. Some people, I've spoken with some celebrities who say they want to be a billionaire. Well, I think a majority of people probably don't want to be a billionaire. In addition to that, a billionaire is not really a measurement of the amount of money someone has. It's more so a reflection of the type of person the person is. And this is the same with multimillionaires, billionaires, millionaires, six-figure people. It's just a reflection of the type of person that you are. And so culturally, we think that we want to be a billionaire because we then believe we would have freedom or we wouldn't have limitations. So really, if you notice, what people want is they want freedom. What people want is the ability to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, right? And so what I help people to do, at whatever stage that they're in, is to tap into what I call their atomic core. So no matter what level somebody is at, I deal with people who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month on advertising. Some people sell $100 million per year in sales. The main thing is that we're all people. And I certainly got this from my father, but we're just people. Like, that's it. And the difference is simply as you progress, finding your own personal success, it is lonely because there are very few people who are flexing their bravery muscle and going after their actual fulfillment. So this is why a celebrity tends to feel alone, because they are alone. This is why there are not so many successful people, because there are not that many brave people. And so when you can connect and find the people who are brave, are flexing the bravery muscle, understand that there's more to themselves and are willing to take I don't want to say chance, but step out and take action to accomplish those goals, now you're meeting what I call a big soul. And that's a beautiful opportunity. And those are the people that I engage with. And that's what's common among the uncommon. because they are uncommon because they're people who are going after it. But 90% of people do not.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up because I know a lot of times people oftentimes talk about, even in terms of our economics, those that are the 10% that are the 10% wealthy or whatever. But it seems to me that what you're arguing is that a lot of those people are actually the ones that are willing to take a chance and go out on the limb in order to become the kind of success, to become part of that more kind of like bigger type of folks that are in that 10% or the 5% or whatever that is that people think of as being more of the elite of society.
That's right. And some people talk about silver spoon type of things. And it's not that that doesn't happen, but when we understand what money is just a measurement of energy. I say this is the lowest form of energy exchange that exists. Lowest not meaning bad. Lowest just meaning the small amount of voltage that can go through it, if you like. And if there was somebody that had this, what people call the silver spoon, or has a number in the bank account that represents a higher number, let's say millions or billions of dollars, but they're not balanced with that, they will lose it. It's just what's going to happen. They're going to lose it. They're not going to feel fulfilled. They will lose their health. Something is going to break. It's going to crack. So there are a lot of people that believe they want what that person has while that person is breaking. And as my father always said, if you've got everything, but you don't have your health or your happiness, you don't have anything. So at the end of the day, when we're looking at somebody that seems to be financially successful, but they don't have fulfillment, they're really on par with a person who's financially bankrupt, right? It's the same thing. So when we understand what that is, we want everybody to operate on a level that's adequate for themselves, which is their full fulfillment. And so when it comes to silver spoon stuff, there is that, but there really kind of isn't, because it will balance itself out.
Yeah, and Fernando was actually making some comments as we were doing this interview and everything. He was actually pointing out that World War II, Spanish flu, and Black Wall Street happened within 4 years of each other. So he's the one that does a lot of studies and things of that nature, Fernando Zelaton, and he's out of the California area, Los Angeles to be exact. And he also says that he likes the bravery muscle, and he said, don't be afraid of living outside the herd. So I do know that a lot of folks like to live outside the herd. And the other thing that I sometimes wonder about is that sometimes people like to put their minds on people that they perceive as being successful, but they might not be as successful as we think they are, because I think that you have to look at the entirety of the person. Like, I am not the biggest fan. I've not made this a unknown fact of the person that currently occupies the White House, because I don't think that he's necessarily aligned. I think that he might have made some money and some other kind of things. But when we talk about alignment, I don't know that he's necessarily aligned, because he's also lost a lot of money in the course of what he's done. And then he puts out divisionary statements and everything like that, the whole thing about a cultural war and things of that nature. So I agree with what you're saying about alignment, that even some of the people that are tremendously successful, and I'm just using him as one example, but there are others as well throughout the society and throughout history that may not have been aligned as we thought they were. And oftentimes they did collapse at some point or another in their life, or if they didn't collapse, some part of their family line collapsed or whatever. So it does seem to me that you have to have that natural alignment that you're talking about, that you try to get people engaged in.
That's right, yeah. And when it comes to alignment, another thing, the way I describe it is that alignment is like the eye of a storm. Alignment is a state of being. It's not a destination. And so what happens with the eye of a storm is the eye of the storm, it moves. And around it is chaos and crazy, but there it's very calm in the center of it. But that center moves. And when it comes to alignment, you've got to pay attention and move along with it as well. And if you don't, then chaos can ensue and that sort of thing. There are ups and downs. Bad things happen. To be in alignment, that's the goal. That's the state that we always want to be in. But it doesn't mean that nothing bad happens or that you won't fail. I skateboard every day, and when it comes to skateboarding, you've got to be technically like in alignment, because if you're off a little bit, you're gonna fall. And falling, you skate on concrete, and the concrete is very, very hard. And so if you are on the board and you're leaning back a little bit too much when you're not, your board's going to slip out and go that way, and your body's going to go directly into the concrete. So you have to be in a constant state of alignment in order to avoid those falls. But sometimes you fall. And the most important thing is, so what? You just get back up again. That's what's key. The person that wins is the person that gets back up more times than the other guy did, right? So that's really an important thing to understand and remember when it comes to all of this.
And you actually bring up a good point. I know sometimes people also are afraid to step out because they're afraid that they will look silly. Like I know I've got friends that do the whole dance thing. They do daybreakers, and at some point they'll have you turn on the TV or turn on the camera because it's like a Zoom conference in their case, and they'll have you turn on the camera and you can go ahead and dance with them and everything. And I've turned on the TV, and yes, I do not claim to be the best dancer in the world, but I've just tried to enjoy. As a friend of mine, I think it was one of the people involved. They were like, um, actually, it was somebody on one of our other previous shows because I was telling them the same story, and they were like saying, "Do you enjoy yourself while you're dancing?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm enjoying myself." So they were like, "Then that's all the important part is: are you enjoying yourself while you're doing it, not whether you're being subconscious about whether you're doing the right steps or the wrong steps or this or that." Because I do think that sometimes, even on the dance floor, we get a little bit too self-conscious about how we look out there. And even to your skateboarding analogy, or skateboarding example, it's not an analogy, but skateboarding example, I'm thinking that, some of these people that you're skateboarding with are probably much younger than you. So they're probably sitting there like thinking to themselves, what's this old man down here doing skateboarding? But it's something that you probably started doing when you were younger, and you probably do it well into your 70s, and you're a long way from 70. But I'm just thinking that it sounds like you have a passion for it, so you'll probably do it for a long time.
Right, right, and I did. I started skateboarding when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I've got 5 children, and they all skate. We all skate, and I got them started when one of them when he was 10 months old. I have the cutest video of that guy. He was approaching one of my boards, and he was just wobble walking, and he put one foot on it, and it's like, oh man, he's really good. And then, but yeah, we all skate. And just recently, really, people have been commenting like on my age, because I was like, am I that old? This guy the other day, they said, man, it's so great that you're out here. I want to be like you when I'm older or something. I was like, I messaged my wife. I said, they're starting to refer to me as as the old guy out here. And I remember guys used to call my father old man because my father still plays basketball, every week. And I remember a long time ago when I was a kid, they would call me old man. So I was like, okay, it's happening. And I love my dad, so that's all right. It's happening.
Nothing wrong with that. I definitely am a big fan of my dad as well, and I'll tell you a little bit about him in a little bit. But Fernando just added that skaters live for the failure that gets you closer to your goal. So that's his comment on how you skaters live and everything. So looks like you're probably agreeing with him. But yeah, my dad has actually gone through a variety of careers. He was him and my mom started a radio station when I was a preteen, and he was involved in some civil rights struggles, and he taught at UNC at the University of North Carolina. But for the last several years, he has been an artist. He is a photographer and does a lot of other very cool art. And actually, back in June, I just turned last week, actually a week ago today, I turned 58. So back in June, almost 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, he turned 80 years old. So like I said, but you would never know it. Look at him. He still has a very youthful energy and youthful demeanor and everything, and definitely still has that kind of passion. And it sounds like your dad is somebody similar to that. I don't know how old your dad is. It sounds like he definitely has that kind of passion and still is engaged in the community.
Yep, he does. My grandmother does. She's just laughing at everything you could possibly say to her. She's just laughing, And so I think she says it, and my father says, it's one of the things that keeps her, healthy and around is that laughter and that smile. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people need is that kind of like energy and things of that nature. If you could just share a little bit of some of the things, you mentioned some of them, but what are some of the things that are in both your book and in your lessons that you give that you can share with our listeners as well, that they can think about and that they can learn from some of the things that you teach these folks on a regular basis as you help them get aligned?
Sure. Yeah, you definitely want to. I think it's because of the COVID situation regarding printing, overseas and everything. But what we're working on right now is adapting to that situation and helping people to be able to access the book digitally. So you'll be able to go to futurewiththewizard.com, and then there'll probably be a link there for the book at some point. And that helps really get people's feet wet into the alignment aspect of things. Futuring the book, that's coming out later on this year. And that's really a very whimsical, beautiful story. The illustrations are remarkable. And we hope to release the audio version. That got pushed off a little bit because of the COVID recording studio as well. So people could download the 8-minute version of Featuring the Story and listen to that daily to put them in the correct mindset. Some of the principles in 5 Principles of Alignment, we deal with bravery muscle, which we spoke about today. Another big one is circadian scheduling. It's a term that I came up with. The bottom line is that you have a rhythm to yourself as a human being. Everything has a cycle. Plants, the earth, the planets, humans, animals, everything has a cycle. So a lot of times when it comes to our schedule and the way we live our day-to-day lives, we are sometimes told, depending on which success guru we're listening to or motivational speaker, wake up, do this, now do that. This is what successful people do. The thing that circadian schedule is really based off of is you as an individual, each individual as an individual, customizing your life to your own life because you're you. So what we need to do with that is understand who you are, how you operate, what are your natural tendencies, and really some people call it doubling down on your strengths as opposed to trying to improve in areas where you're not so good. That's a big concept and principle that I focus a lot on. So for example, we were talking earlier about email. I don't like email. Email doesn't really work for me. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't like the layout. I think a lot of people don't like email, so I don't do email. Now I have people as part of my company, they do email, but when I'm looking for people who work for me in my company, I look for people who enjoy what they're doing, who enjoy what it is that I need done. And that way they can be where they're happy. I could be where I'm happy. And then the areas where I'm very good, that's where I want to naturally continue to improve because I'm naturally interested in that area. So I'm going to improve, right? So that's a big thing. So if you're horrible at something, don't try to get better at it. Like, let it go and then figure out where you're really good and get super great there. The other aspect is the bravery muscle, taking action on things that will impact or change your life. Understanding that time is expensive and money is very cheap. This is the reason why people hire coaches. This is the reason why people get consultants, because using money is a very cheap way as opposed to using time. A lot of entrepreneurs and other people who are very talented say things like, I can do it myself, or I'll learn it myself, or I'll read a book and I'll try it myself. And while that's sort of admirable, it's not the best use of your energy, time, or money. You really want to use money wherever you can, and time only where it energizes you, because time is the most expensive thing possible. So a lot of times people think that if they do it themselves, they're saving money, but they have no idea they just paid $1 billion for what could have cost $100 because they used their time. So that's a big understanding. It's that shift that needs to happen. The other thing we talk a lot about is alignment really is everything. So doing things that are in your alignment is key. Anything can make money. Making money is really not difficult. So it's like buy low, sell high, do something valuable for somebody else. I mean, it's really not super hard. I was watching this great film, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and this was taking place in, I think, Malawi, Africa. And if you pay attention to what actually happened in this film, there were farmers. So you could think, well, making money seemed to be hard there. Well, this is based off a true story as well. This wonderful boy, he applied what he learned and then created, I don't want to spill the beans, I don't think it is, but I created a windmill that created wealth for his entire village. And they were able to eat even when it was dry. And that was in his alignment. He cared about it, and that impacted other people. So we want to really pay attention to what your alignment is. That's going to be the easiest way for you to make money, feel fulfilled, be happy, and to live your purpose. So the last thing I would say on there is look for things that pay attention to things that energize you as opposed to things you're good at. There are a lot of things I'm good at, but if you go that route, you can end up everywhere. What is it that you do where you feel energized when you're finished? That's a big question.
Wow, because it's interesting you bring that up because I know sometimes when I think of alignment, I think of like the spiritual aspect of life. And of course, there's a big movement now in mindfulness and meditation and things of that nature. But then we've also got like the churches and the religions and things of that nature. And sometimes it seems to me that they're actually disencouraging alignment because to me, most of the religions, from the way I understand them, and I've got friends that are Christian, friends that are Muslims, friends that are Buddhist, and some that practice other kinds of religions, more Eastern religions as well. And they seem to me, it should be all about the common goals of all religions, which is kind of like the whole concept of love and the basic things that are in all of the religious books. But I do think that sometimes the institutions get out of alignment and they concentrate on my way or the highway versus like the whole concept of alignment, which to me they all share, which is the concept of being loving thy neighbor, being good to thy neighbor, the basic principles. Some people would say they're the same principles that are in the Ten Commandments, but I think those same principles are in most of our religious books in one form or fashion or another.
Yeah, so I'm Jewish. That's why these are Peyot and Akipa there. And so the thing that happens with these religions is they do do get a little bit out of hand, but here's what's happening. The religion, all of these religions, they're systems. And the systems, some people view them as bad, but they're trying to help. So what's so cool about McDonald's is I don't eat McDonald's. I'm a vegan too, so I'm kosher plus a vegan, but I don't eat McDonald's. But the point with McDonald's though is people say that they're not the best burgers. They don't taste good at all. They're not going for quality. Yet they're a multi-billion-dollar organization. One of the things that Ray Kroc was very good at, besides understanding that McDonald's is a real estate company, not necessarily a food company, is that their systems. When he purchased it from McDonald's brothers, he understood how to really systemize the processes. And so the system enabled this multi-billion-dollar organization to grow, to flourish, and to scale because of the systems, not because of the talent of the individual employees. So what we have here with certain major religions, Siddhartha Gautama in Buddhism, Abraham Avinu in Judaism, Jesus in Christianity, Muhammad in Islam, is you have these individuals who possibly have some kind of a sensitivity to what's going on. So these are individuals. Well, then when you have more people who also want to live that sensitivity, the individual has to figure out a way, how can I systemize this for people who probably don't have the level of sensitivity that I have? So then we've got a certain bunch of rules that come into play. What ends up happening to anything is when people begin to value the rules more than what the rules are there for. And that's when you notice certain religions getting, quote unquote, I don't know if the word is out of alignment, but not really helping people the way they want to help people. So there are a few common grounds. I always say there's only one message, period. No matter what religion you're in, or if you're atheist or numerology or Hinduism, it doesn't really matter. Alignment really is a major part of that, is that you're here for a reason. And despite the DSM-4, which says, there's hundreds, I think, of disorders, which are, I'm not saying not legit, but despite that, we basically have like givers and we have takers in the world. And we want to be the type of person who is a giver. And giving can be complex because giving is not easy. And what I mean by that is if you were to give, again, I do work with houseless people a lot. There's something I like about them and that sort of thing. But if you were to give a houseless person $500, that could cause more harm than good. So that's not giving. We have to understand what it means to give. Water is good. Too much water drowns people. Water is good. Too much water doesn't allow the seeds to grow. So we have to have balance with all of it. So when it comes to alignment, what we have and what we're looking for is tapping into your atomic core, which is one of the principles of alignment, being balanced and understanding how to provide value. When we can really solve all those problems, it solves your own problems and your neighbor's problems.
Wow. I was wondering, did you find that there was a little bit more alignment? Because I've had this conversation ever since COVID became more of a national and international kind of thing. But it seemed to me that in terms of nature, nature became more aligned as we became more confined. Meaning that when humans came inside, it seemed to me that we started seeing nature become more aligned with its natural self. I noticed that there was talks of like animals appearing in Italy that hadn't been seen in centuries, if not decades. And then there was talk about, I even noticed animals even here, I'm in Durham, North Carolina, that I would seem to be a little bit more, less flighty, less afraid of humans because they weren't seeing as many humans. So when they saw them, they would eventually fly away, but they, using a bird as an example, but they wouldn't fly away right away. Whereas back in the old days when the cars were much more heavily in the traffic, when big cities like New York were all crowded, that they would definitely disperse very quickly. But it does seem like nature was starting to react to us being out of alignment and kind of coming inside by becoming more aligned. At least that's the way I looked at it. I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Sure, things get out of balance. It's really easy for things to get out of balance, even when we're wanting to do good things. And so when people, let's just say cars are super cool. They enable us to go from one place to another place in a much shorter amount of time. That's helpful if that short amount of time you're using it to do something beneficial, to do something giving. If you're not, you get to that place earlier. What are you doing with your time? And so this is suggesting with this concept is that when people have been outside, let's say, and the animals have gone inward, right? Because they naturally are, I don't want to say the word afraid, but they're naturally I guess I'll use the word afraid, intimidated by, they understand that man has his role over here and they have their territory over here. That's a natural understanding between humans and animals. So when we go inside and they're able to explore around a little bit, the question really is that helpful? Is that good for the world? Is there something to that? So I think there's a balance with it. It's nice to see animals be able to roam about. And it's also nice for human beings to maybe think a little bit more, to be more intentional, I think is a better way of saying it. So a lot of times when you've got the freedom to drive or to walk or to spend, sometimes we do behaviors by rote and by habit or by expectations, and we're not even thinking about what we're doing. So let's say that as this requirement to be more indoors is there, when we're going outside, let's say the government is saying you can only go outside for this reason or that reason, we then have to be more intentional about the reasons we're going outside. I think that's beneficial to the person themselves. Whether they should or shouldn't be saying that, it's a different topic. But what we can do to benefit from this is understand that when we make these choices, when they're intentional, this is the way we want to live every aspect of our life. Calculated.
Yeah, and I noticed that Fernando was asking whether you are a approver of the 20/80 approach, which I guess is like, you spend 20% of your time on one thing and 80% on the other. So I guess he was asking whether you were aware of that approach and what you thought of that approach in terms of going about with success.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. That's called the Pareto's principle. I absolutely love that principle. I think it's fascinating. And I think it's very applicable. One area where I tend to talk about this a lot is on money, business, and entrepreneurship. That 20% or 80% of your income is coming from 20% of your efforts, or 80% of your income is coming from 20% of your clients. So what that could cause you to do if you're an entrepreneur is basically fire 80% of your clientele. That happens sometimes, because, and what does that look like? What I mean by that, and I've definitely done this, is that there are 2 out of 10 people that you feel energized from engaging with. You feel good about engaging with. Those are the people that you want to pour your entire soul, energy, value, and systems into. And that's it. And then they will, they'll reciprocate. Whereas the other 80% who are possibly draining from you, taking from you, you think you're making money because they're paying you, but they're only accounting for actually 20% of your income. Those are clients that you want to let go. So I'm very, very selective with people I work with. Always have been, for almost 20 years now in any industry that I'm working with. And if there are people that you need to fire, you'll make more money, you'll feel happier, you'll feel more fulfilled, and the people that you're serving will be better served. And the people who you're letting go anyways, you couldn't have helped them anyways, because they're not the type of people that actually want a solution. They're probably some kind of a taker. So understanding that, I apply that principle to definitely work, entrepreneurship, working with clients, your own personal life, your daily activities. You might be able to cut out 80% of what you do if it's not giving you results that you want to have in your life. We're going to take a look at that. Friends, family that you're surrounding yourself with, people, human beings, books, movies. You want to understand that they're impacting your life to a very large degree. So what we want to do is we want to understand what percentage is affecting what, and then only keep, like Bruce Lee would say, what is useful, and get rid of what is useless.
And I know some people try to do that even with their friends, and you alluded to that earlier, but sometimes people find that hard to do because they've gotten so used to being with certain sets of friends and certain other folks. But I agree with you that sometimes certain people in your life, whether that's friends or acquaintances, they might be pulling you down. They might not actually be helping you create the opportunities that you want in your life. So how do you go about suggesting to people, if you're telling friends and clients they might need to cut off their friends or cut off certain people? And I think sometimes you even have to cut off family members. But how do you go about telling them to do that if that's something that you feel that they need to do, and when you're giving them this advice?
Sure, yeah. So this was just happening in the past few days. It may require a conversation, it may not. I think usually it doesn't. I would like to say that it's not even that people are pulling you down. I want to put the responsibility on you, not on other people yanking you down. So what I would like to say is that if you are engaging with, because time is expensive. So if you're texting, spending time with, in person, whatever, with anybody, this is friends, family, acquaintances, does not matter, who is not, let's say, in alignment with where you want to go, they're not people who feel like they're heading in that same direction, then it's a distraction. And you have your life. That's what you have, and that's it. And so you have a choice to make. You can give it to them, or you can give it to this other thing that you believe in. And this other thing that you believe in, which is your purpose for being here, is there for other people who also value what it is that you have to provide for the world. So these people, it's not that they're being malicious. I think a majority of them have no intent. There are a few like wicked people, let's say, but that's not very common. So I think a majority of them are just, they're just not on that trajectory. They may be in survival mode, whatever it is. They're not in the same headspace you are. So if they say, hey, John, whatever your name might be, do you want to come hang out on Thursday? No, thank you. That's it. That's all you have to do. And the more times you do it, they're going to stop inviting you. If they get their feelings hurt, they might say, hey, why don't you hang out with us anymore? And you say, I think you guys are great, but there are several things that I'm really focused on right now, and it really requires my attention. I'm passionate about them. And if they're the type of people that are supportive, they might say, is there some way I can help? If they're not, they'll say, you think you're too good for us now. And you could say, yes. And leave it. Because if they're speaking that way, then you are possibly, I don't say causing them, you are possibly making them feel uncomfortable, because it would also require them to take a look at their life and their own bravery muscle, which is hard and scary. If everybody were able to do this, everybody would be doing it, but they're not, which is why 2 to 10% of people are actually leaders, right? Everybody else is following a system. So when it comes to this, if they are being some kind of negative towards what you're doing, don't even take it personal. It's just most likely that they are followers, or they're not able to see it, and that's okay. But you don't want to sacrifice the millions of people that are there to benefit from you for the 6, 10, or 20 people who are not.
And what do you tell folks when they have realized that they have to sometimes say no? Because I know even on some of our other shows, we talk about that, it's 2 simple letters, but sometimes it's the hardest thing for people to say in general, because a lot of times you have a given spirit, you want to give, you want to help people. And sometimes I know that you have to say no just because it's not going to help you and it's not going to be good for your alignment. So when you're talking to your clients, how do you deal with them having to learn that sometimes they do have to say no? And it might even be the folks that are part of their families. I mean, I remember Ron Thomas, who was on one of my other shows, and he's a gentleman out of Dubai that used to live in the Northeast. I think it was New York, but he now has a business consulting firm in Dubai. And he talked about people needing to send him business proposals, and sometimes he would have to say no to them, including some family members. But he also talked about the power of yes, because he did say that one time when he decided to retire, and he's retired, I think he's like in his 70s or something like that, he wanted to do motivational speaking. So he went out to sent out a letter to a couple of corporations around the world, basically saying, I know you're having these conferences, somebody may happen, this is my background, something may happen that somebody has to cancel. If they cancel, I'm available. And he put a letter out to several people, and he got several replies back. I want to say that he might have sent those letters like on a Wednesday or Thursday. He had several replies back by like the weekend. So like I said, he just put himself out in that kind of realm. And, he just said, look, these are my skills. This is my skill set. So he didn't decide to limit himself. He actually just took the risk of putting himself out there as this retired person with a business background. But he didn't have these people didn't know him from Adam, to use the religious analogy and everything. So, but he just put himself out there and had some tremendous amount of success, and still has a tremendous amount of success. But just what are some of the ways that you deal with that in terms of like either the yes or the no, and how you tell people to deal with those things?
Right. When you say no, I believe that was my first word of English when I was a baby. I think my first word was no, according to my mom. I have to check on that. So it's a very important word. It definitely sets boundaries. One of the big things I'm pretty strong about is you don't need to justify it or explain it or apologize. That's the big one. I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry. Like that sort of thing is not usually fitting. Only because you're probably not sorry. So don't, you only want to say what's authentic to you. So if you're sorry, you could say it, but you might not be sorry. So one big thing is it's not a fit for me. That doesn't really align with where I'm going. That doesn't really make sense for me right now. And then provide a solution. That's very helpful. So that doesn't work for me. Would you like to work with this? With clients who've tried to work with me, it's not really a fit to work with me on. Have you tried this person? I don't think we're fit to work together, but you can try that. When it comes to, friends or family, just no. You can say that doesn't work. That's not something that makes sense for us right now. Maybe XYZ, or have you tried? I think a big thing with the no's is providing us another area they could go in. You can be the guy that just says no. You could totally be that person. But if you can just go a little bit to figure out how you can help in a different way, I find that to be helpful for me. If you're dealing with the person who won't take no as an answer, let's say, you're either dealing with a really, cool, great person because they're never giving up, or you're dealing with the taker. It's one or the other. If it's somebody who's taking, you're going to eventually have to have even more of a firm no. And that becomes easy at that point because you've been gracious, and then the answer is no. And then you could leave.
That makes sense. But sometimes I know that, and I wonder how you deal with this, because sometimes there are people in the world of business that that are takers, and they have like that taking mentality. But for whatever reason, they have positioned themselves in part of the world that you have to deal with them. So you have to deal with them even though you know what they are. So the way I would use it is that in my mind, I know what their attitude is. I know what they're about. So even if I might have to deal with them, I deal with them on a limited basis because I know where they are coming from. And I know that I've already peeped their game, to put it in kind of like blunt terms and everything. But I do think that sometimes you have to deal with people that are some of those people that you're talking about, the takers and the users of the world, just because they put themselves in positions that you can't avoid them. And that might be because of the way that they're aggressive in their own marketing, or it might be that they are in positions of leadership. But for whatever reason, they put themselves in a position that you can't avoid them. But I do think that you can be aware of who they are and, just kind of like aware of who they are and deal with them as they are. So like I said, if I live in an apartment complex, if I was to go outside and I was to see a snake, I would know that snake was there and I would avoid that snake. I would try to walk in the other direction. I wouldn't try to walk toward the snake.
Sure. Yeah, when it comes to that, understanding who or what these people are is helpful. Leveraging it to where it is beneficial for you can also be helpful. So with the snake as an example, we understand now that we can use anti-venom. So from even poisonous snakes, and understanding that causes you to look at the snake slightly differently. So that can be helpful. I'm not against. Well, I guess I'm not really into killing animals to wear them. But let's just say, if a snake were to bite you or go after biting you, and then you were able to catch it to keep from biting you and take the venom, there's a lot of things where you can figure out how to use it in a way that's beneficial. So those are those types of people. If you, I can't think of a situation where if you couldn't avoid the person. Let's say you're, I guess, working someplace, you can't avoid this type of person. I don't know. It's not even. I don't know. I've never had a job, but you can always do something. I'm not sure what it might be, but you always have a choice. So it could be changing departments. It could be, I don't know. There's so many things you can do, but I don't want a person to avoid the situation, because a lot of times the energy put into avoidance begins to be more than simply solving the problem. And I'm very careful about conserving my client's energy. And if we avoid something, it could then become fear. And that just leads down a different trajectory. So what I like to do is figure out how to get that anti-venom as soon as possible, and then leverage the entire situation so that you're in control of the entire situation. That's my preference.
That makes a lot of sense. And how do you, what kind of clients do you look for, and how do you go about getting your clients? Because like I said, I know you have the website and things of that nature, but are there like a specific type of people that you're looking for as clients? Because like I said, I know that you've worked with some that people would consider acting and music celebrities, and of course you've dealt with corporations and people of that nature, but you also have common citizens as well. So specifically, what does JB the Wizard look for as clients? Or do you just have to be like the old Wizard of Oz and hope that you get to the mountaintop and that you actually find the wizard and that you can actually get the advice from the wizard when you get there? Or are there specific kinds of clients that you're looking for?
Sure. Any human that knows that they are bigger and have more to do than what is currently happening is a person that should reach out. A person who understands and knows that they have something to do in this world, but they might not know how to connect the dots. If a person doesn't feel, if they feel foggy, if they're in the middle of a lot of life decisions and they need help with clarity, if they want to live and activate their full potential, I usually tend to work with people who believe or are the best in whatever they are the best in. This could be Olympians. This could be physical, like Miss America type stuff. This could be sales. It doesn't matter. If you feel that you're the best, I've worked with photographers who felt they were the best, and they are very good. It's just that type of mentality, and because they tend to want to continue to be the best and the best version of themselves. The way people tend to find out about me is through interviews. The book coming out will be a way, and there are some posts in social media. My team, articles are being written right now in different outlets. So those are ways. And people can always go to, I think it's futurewiththewizard.com. They could reach out to Tess, Samantha on Telegram. I think it's assistant to JB, like t.me/assistant to JB. LinkedIn is a way. So anybody that reaches out via social media, The Wizard is Real on Instagram. JB the Wizard on LinkedIn and futurewiththewizard.com. Anyone that reaches out to me through any of those venues will connect with somebody from my team, and they just want to know how they can help you and if you're a fit. And there are a few things that we're developing to help people at different stages where they're at. So again, we've got the book, we've got courses, we've got group coaching, we've got one-on-one coaching. All of those things are options to help you get fully unlocked.
Now, was there ever a case where you reached or somebody reached out to you and you did find out that they weren't a fit? And how did you cope with that? Just you as a person that's giving this great advice about alignment. But was there ever a case where you actually had somebody reach out to you and you were like, nope, I can't work with you, or I need to send you to somebody else, or things of that nature? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. Usually my team fields all of that, but they know what they're looking for. So obviously anybody negative, that doesn't happen. Anybody who believes they know it all, I don't have time for that. Because when it comes to the 80-20 rule, speaking of Fernando's thing, is that time is expensive, right? So when I'm speaking with a client, I'm working with somebody, I have no interest in convincing them that what I have to say is right. I don't have the time for that. So if you already are open to what it is that I'm saying, now I can spend time in just telling you what I know works, and then you could apply that. So I'm not interested in fighting. I'm interested in just solving the problem. So one of the things that happens if somebody reaches out, messages somebody from my team, and they are argumentative, or there's somebody that will require some kind of convincing, then that's not efficient for me or my company. And I want everything to operate efficiently. So when that happens, you can then say you could read one of the books, because if they buy one of the books, or if they listen to the stuff, that doesn't require any energy from us, because we've already created the energy. Now they can go and kind of deal with themselves, and then when they're ready, they'll reach back out again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who are some of the people that inspired you, just in terms of like your own development, whether that was with your acting, whether that was with the work that you're doing as JB the Wizard, or whatever? But who are some of the people that inspired you? You definitely earlier mentioned your dad and your grandma, so I definitely can tell that you got some of those family connections. But who are some of the other folks that inspired you?
That's right. Just one more shout out again is definitely my father. He's a great person. He what makes him so amazing is that he sees people as people, period. So, and I just saw that happen with him. And so now my vision is I just see human beings as well, and it makes my life just a really nice place to be. My father always also encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. He definitely always believed in me, still believes in me. And if I wanted to do something, he'd say, yeah, you could do it. Sometimes like, how can I help? That sort of thing is very powerful. For me, he always let me know that I could do anything, but what is it that I want to do? So that was really some big teaching from him. I appreciate the things. I'm German and I'm Jewish, and then my father is American, and my father came from just dirt floors, outhouse, picking blueberries, just really almost the lowest it can get in this country. And my mother comes from a different country. She comes from Germany, and she didn't speak English, taught herself English, came over here, so I guess I didn't realize I'm like basically double immigrant almost, you know what I mean? So you tend to have successful people that come from that because people have done something for themselves there. So my parents, for sure. And then Bruce Lee. My father taught me about Bruce Lee early on, and I absolutely love Bruce Lee. I certainly want to continue to connect with Shan, and I'd love to connect with her. But the thing with Bruce is he was a philosopher. He was a fighter, but he was really a philosopher. And he was also about humanity and humankind. And one of the beautiful things about him, he says that a kick is just a kick. There's no Chinese kick. There's no Korean kick. People are people. A kick is a kick and a punch is a punch. And he said to let go of what is useless and to hold on to what is useful. And that's really efficient outlook as well. And I really appreciate that about Bruce Lee. So those are some major impacts in my own life.
Wow. What are some of the other philosophies of Bruce Lee that you enjoyed? I also remember watching definitely some of the early Bruce Lee movies, and also watching I'll admit it. I watched Kung Fu, the David Carradine movie, because of exactly that reason. He would sometimes drop some of that Asian philosophy. Now it might have been the, canned Hollywood version, but still there was some
Right.
truth to what they were putting in there. So I definitely enjoyed that growing up, during that 70s and 80s kind of period, catching those movies and everything about that philosophy. But what were some of the philosophies of the East that you really identified with when you were studying Bruce Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing martial arts since I'm 6 years old. So, like, it's a lot of decades of let's say, Eastern philosophy in addition to Bruce Lee. But, let go of what is useless, hold on to what is useful is a big one. Emptying your cup. Like if you had a lot of people come with their glass full, but if you would come with your glass empty, then it could be filled. This is a very big Eastern concept. It's a very big one that we call in the West, coachable. Like we say, coachable. Really, it's like empty out your cup. A very impactful quote and mentality from Bruce. It's a bit Eastern as well. I think is that he said, "It's very easy for me to get on stage and to be real cool and to be real cocky." He said, "But to go on stage and to be myself, that is very hard, my friend." And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So when it comes to authenticity and alignment, I'm very passionate about that. When I public speak or if I'm on stage, if I'm doing an interview, I am always me. And thank God I have had the support from my family and influencers like Bruce Lee to help with that, my wife, my children. And that's a helpful one. That's a big helpful one because it's easy to go and try to be real cool. But to go up there and be authentic, most people can't do that. So if you can, that's very valuable.
Yeah, I agree with you because I know there's a festival here, the National Black Theater Festival, and oftentimes there'll be major celebrities there, like Petrie Bird, who is the bailiff from Judge Judy. He'll appear and he actually throws a party, and of course Angela Bassett and several others have been there, Ruby and Ossie when they were living. But I would actually sometimes go and talk to them just in having very engaging conversations about the world, about their careers, about different things of that nature. But I do remember some friends and acquaintances would come and ask me, "Well, how did you talk to that person? How did you even know that person?" And I'm like, "Look, someone got coming back to your concept of alignment and things like that." I was like, yes, they might be celebrities, but at the end of the day, they're just basically humans. They're basically just regular people. So if you approach them as regular people, they will appreciate that, most of them. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some who don't have some egos and don't want you to approach them with like kind of putting them on a pedestal. But I have found, and I'm wondering if you found this to be the same, that most of those folks, whether they're business leaders or celebrities or sports athletes that might get put on a pedestal, they just want the common citizens to approach them with definitely respect of their skill sets, but they don't want them to be put necessarily on pedestals.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I definitely I've seen that just with some of the things that I've done. If you want to, just share some of the people that you have worked with, and also as we close everything out, I would love to hear some final thoughts that you might have in terms of like some words of wisdom that you want to share. You've already shared several of them, but I just didn't know if you had any additional ones that you want to share. But definitely, if you want to mention some of your past clients, so that folks can have an idea of who JB the Wizard is and who some of the folks that you have worked with are. Like I said, I know you mentioned an Olympic athlete, and I mentioned Cuba Gooding earlier, and I'm actually a big fan of Cuba Gooding Jr. I think he's an amazing actor. But just if there's some other folks that you want to give a shout out to, just in terms of you having a great deal of respect for them, and also any words of advice that you want to give.
Yeah. His name was Bob. I was in Prison Break, and I did a scene with Bob. His name is Robert. And he was also in The Wire on HBO. He was such a kind person. And so I really, really like and I really appreciate him. Michael Schofield, he was the star of Prison Break. When I was doing the scene with him, I remember not realizing how good he was when I saw him on the telly. And then when I was in the scene with him, he just has a powerful energy and a powerful presence. So I appreciate that about him. Lou Diamond Phillips is remarkable. I like him so much. We did a show together, A Few Good Men on Stage, and he's such a good, kind person. He actually knew Brandon Lee before he passed away, so that's a big deal. So those are some of the people that have worked with Jensen Ackles. He was in Supernatural. He's a very helpful person. I remember when I first got my role in Prison Break, I called Jensen because he was doing Supernatural for so long, and I was like, I'm a little concerned. What do I need to know about how television works compared to film or theater? And then he was very helpful there as well. Some of the clients that. I worked with Miss America. I worked with Charlie Rocket. He's pretty vocal about that, and just other good people. Some CEOs, some salespeople, some people. Like I said before, they are selling quite a bit. So some of my clients are selling, $100 million plus, but some are not. Some are, I don't know, just the regular entrepreneur Joe, if you like. So them. And then the final thing I would say is that you already have all the answers, right? So keep that in mind, that being able to flex your bravery muscle to take action on the answers that you already know is what's going to be key. All right, so that's all she wrote. I think
appreciate you being with us and everything. So great conversation, and definitely think that folks learned a lot. If you could just one more time give the website where folks can find you. You did that once before, but if you just give it one more time, and then we'll wrap everything up. But I definitely appreciate you joining me here in this conversation, and I think folks definitely learned a lot about being aligned. By the way, Fernando said that he definitely found you to be a fantastic interview as well, and he'll be looking you up on LinkedIn. So you should definitely be getting a comment or a LinkedIn request from Fernando Zeladon, and I'm sure that there'll be others that'll be reaching out to you as well. But I do appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom. So definitely the wizard was sharing some great wisdom, and I appreciate it. But if you would give the email one more time. It's interesting that you said that about that you have the answers, because even though he's a very much of a conspiracy theorist, Ole Damagard, who I had on yesterday, and he has light on conspiracies, that's actually one of the more positive things that he did put out there, was that same kind of concept of that a lot of the answers that we're looking for are inside of us, and that we don't need to necessarily be looking for the answers outside, that they are internal answers. So even though he might have some views that other people may not agree with in terms of like whether space travel happened or whether this or that happened in the world, the core of his message was very similar to yours, which is that a lot of the answers that we're looking for are within our own being and with our own self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's and the website is futurewiththewizard.com. And then on Instagram, it's The Wizard is Real. And then on LinkedIn, it should be JB the Wizard.
Sounds great. And like I said, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on here. We'll end this broadcast right now with JB the Wizard. He was an amazing guest. I'm going to probably talk to him just a little bit outside in the studio, but we will end the broadcast right now. So I hope that folks are able to, if you did not catch this live during this afternoon, you can go back on Facebook Live, definitely on the IBM TV YouTube site, as well as on some of our other platforms as well. I know I'll be posting it to my Facebook pages that I have. So definitely we do hope that you'll go back and check it out there. And of course, we'll also put it on our Next Level Network, which is where we usually do our Straight Talk with Dean and Mark on in the evenings of Monday evenings, but we'll put it on that platform as well. So there'll be several places that folks can catch it. As far as IBM.TV, there are several great programmers. Like I said earlier, I was on the financial program of getting investment advice from Sasha. And of course, there was also Podcasters Thursdays, which will be tomorrow. And then later on this weekend, they'll have a show with Alexandria. She is a young lady in her early 20s that has a music program out of South Africa. So there's all kinds of great programming. They even had a program earlier today with a young lady from China, and I think that she's going to be doing some regular programming with us as well. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in the world. Even though I haven't officially ended the broadcast, I'll have to tell JB at some point we'll have to have a JB the Wizard show. And maybe they'll have to talk to my people and see if they can make that happen, where he can give some of this advice about being aligned and doing this on a more consistent and regular basis. But like I said, this is going to end it for this particular afternoon. But we do have our regular shows on Monday. I already have some great guests, including one who is all about just doing good just for the good of doing good deeds. So he's all about, he's got like some wristbands and some others, and he's got a program called Bump. And it basically is about trying to encourage people to be altruistic and to do good deeds on a regular basis. And apparently something happened with him, and I'm interested to learn what it was, where he kind of like got motivated to do this by an encounter that he had earlier in his life. So we'll be finding out more about what that encounter was and why it made him as altruistic as he is, and why he encourages others to do that as well. And then we've got some comedians that'll be joining us on that show also from around the world, and that'll be on Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. And then our regular podcast will be 7 to 9, and we've got several guests already lined up that'll be talking about just what's going on in the world and things of that nature. So it should be a great conversation. I believe one of those guests that we have on our regular podcast will be a gentleman who is running for treasurer here in our area of North Carolina, but he is of Indian American descent. So he's actually, his family, I'm not sure if he's first or second generation, but they definitely have roots in India. So, and there will also be a gentleman from Montana who is very much about sustainability. So we've got some great shows coming up, and that's just some of those that I know that are coming up in the near future. So definitely do keep yourself locked into the different programming that we're doing, both on IBM TV as well as on our Blog Talk Radio platform, which is where the regular podcast is at. So we definitely hope that you will go in there and check out those programs. There are some amazing programs. And of course, we're always looking for great guests. So if you know of any great guests, let us know that, because we're always looking for other guests to join us on these programs to share their stories and to give us their inspirations, because that's what we're all about, is trying to encourage people to be positive and to give us positive news about what they're doing and ways that we can encourage each other. So definitely that's kind of our goal and kind of what we do. I mean, there's definitely some people that are doing all kinds of amazing things in the world of entrepreneurship, creativity, and activism, because we do talk about some of our activist friends as well. So definitely look forward to seeing many of y'all in upcoming editions and continuing this conversation. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I had actually put out a notice that I was at 25 and wanted to get up to 50 by Friday. Well, I'm already heading toward that goal, because I think the last time I checked, I was at 43. So I said I want to get 50 by the weekend of Friday and maybe go for 100, because I know that they allow you to do a little bit more at YouTube once you cross that 100 mark. So I had set 100 as a target for like maybe later on this month, or even going into next month in August. But already things are going really well, so I might accomplish that goal even faster than I thought I would. So definitely I want to encourage others to subscribe as well. So once again, want to thank y'all that were watching, and we'll catch you next time.